Story 1. The Stranger in the Trees. I was 17 when this happened, and I can still remember every single detail like it was last week. My best friend Kyle had convinced me to go camping with him deep in the state forest near where we lived. Neither of us had a lot of money back then, so we couldn't do anything fancy. Just 2 sleeping bags, a cheap tent from Walmart, and a backpack full of instant noodles and trail mix. To us, though, it felt like an adventure. We hiked about 2 miles off the main trail, way further than I was comfortable going. There were no cabins nearby, no other campers, no signs of life at all. It's just endless rows of trees in every direction. The forest swallowed us whole. At first, I thought it was kind of exciting. We set up our tent in a small clearing with a ring of rocks where we could build a fire. As the sun went down, everything around us turned pitch black except for the glow of our campfire. The first night went fine. We cooked hot dogs over the fire, told stupid stories, and laughed about how creepy the woods seemed in the dark. Eventually, the fire burned down to glowing embers, and we both passed out in our sleeping bags. But the second night, that was when everything changed. It started with the sound of branches snapping. I woke up around 2 a.m., my eyes snapping open in the pitch dark. At first, I thought maybe it was Kyle moving around in his bag. But when I glanced over, he was still snoring quietly, dead asleep. The sound came again. Snap, crunch. Not close, but not far either. It wasn't the random rustle of wind, and it wasn't the quick scattering noise of a small animal. It was slower, heavier, like footsteps. My body went cold all over. I lay there, frozen, staring at the ceiling of the tent, listening. My heart was beating so hard, I was sure it would wake Kyle up. "It's Kyle," I whispered finally. "You hear that?" He stirred, rubbing his eyes. "What?" "Listen." We both went quiet. A few seconds later, the sound came again. Snap, crunch, crunch. He groaned. Probably just a deer dude. "Go back to sleep." I wanted to believe him so badly, but something about the rhythm of it. It just didn't sound like an animal moving naturally. It sounded deliberate, like someone walking. I sat up slowly and unzipped the tent, just enough to peek out. The fire was nothing more than faint red coals, but it gave off just enough light to illuminate the first row of trees. And that's when I saw it, a figure, standing just beyond the firelight, perfectly still. My mouth went dry. I couldn't make out details, just the outline of a tall man standing among the trees, half hidden by the shadows. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Finally, I whispered as loud as I dared, "Kyle, wake up now." He groaned and sat up, annoyed. "What is it?" By the time he looked, the figure was gone. The trees stood motionless. The shadows were empty. He rolled his eyes. "Dude, you're freaking yourself out. Go back to sleep." I zipped the tent shut, but sleep was impossible. I lay there for hours, my ears straining for every sound. Around 4 a.m., just when I was starting to drift off again, it happened. A sound that froze my blood. Whistling. Low, slow, steady whistling. 2 notes, repeated over and over. Not a song I recognized. Just an eerie, off-key tune, drifting through the trees. Kyle shot upright this time, his eyes wide in the faint glow of the tent. "Dude," he whispered, "someone's out there." We sat completely still, the whistling circling our camp. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther away, always moving. We didn't speak. We didn't dare make a sound. That whistling went on for nearly half an hour, echoing between the trees until it finally faded. We didn't sleep a single second after that. As soon as the first light of dawn hit, we packed everything. No breakfast, no coffee, shoving everything into our bags as fast as we could. Halfway back to the trailhead, I glanced over my shoulder one last time, and that's when I saw it. Pinned to a tree where our camp had been was a piece of paper, a piece of notebook paper, flapping lightly in the morning breeze. I stopped walking and just stared. My stomach dropped so hard, I nearly puked. Kyle walked up behind me. "What is it?" I didn't answer. I just pointed. He went pale. "Okay?" On that paper, scrawled in messy, uneven handwriting, were the words, "Nice tent." Story 2. The thing that crawled into our camp. This happened 3 summers ago. My girlfriend and I decided to go camping near a remote lake. Neither of us had been there before, but we'd seen pictures online of crystal clear water, surrounded by endless pine trees. We wanted peace and quiet. No cell service, no crowded campgrounds, just the two of us, alone in nature. It took nearly 2 hours of driving down a cracked dirt road just to get there. We parked by the trailhead, hiked about a mile through the woods, and finally found the lake. It was perfect. Not a single sign of other people. The air was fresh, the water calm, and the forest so still it felt untouched. We set up our tent right by the shore. The sun shimmered off the water, and for most of the first day, it was exactly what we wanted. We swam, cooked fish we caught, and sat by the fire as the stars came out. That night, the only sound was the crackle of firewood and the distant ripple of water against the shore. I remember thinking, this is perfect. I could stay out here forever. But forever turned out to be much shorter than I thought. Sometime past midnight, I woke up to my girlfriend shaking me. "Listen," she whispered. At first, I only heard the crickets. Then, slowly, another sound came through. A dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled through dirt and leaves. It circled the tent, slow and uneven. Shake, drag, shake, drag. Not footsteps, not an animal scurrying. Something else. We held our breath, listening. The sound moved closer to the tent, then paused. My girlfriend gripped my arm so tight her nails dug in. I whispered, "Stay quiet." The dragging started again, moving around us, almost like it was tracing a circle. Finally, I couldn't take it. I grabbed the flashlight from beside me and unzipped the flap just an inch. I shined the beam into the darkness, and that's when I saw it. Something, I daren't even know if I can call it a person, was crawling on all fours just outside our campfire's dying glow. Its arms and legs were too long, bending at odd angles as it dragged itself across the ground. Its back was arched unnaturally high, like its spine was broken. Its head jerked in sharp movements, tilting side to side, as if sniffing the dirt. For one horrible second, the flashlight caught its face. Its skin was pale, almost gray. Its eyes were wide and glassy, reflecting the light like an animal's, and its mouth stretched open far too much, curling into a crooked grin that didn't look human. I yanked the zipper shut, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. My girlfriend whispered, "What did you see?" I couldn't even answer. Outside, the dragging stopped. For a long time, there was just silence. Then, in one violent burst, something slammed against the side of the tent. The fabric bowed inward, as if something had pressed its whole body against it. We both screamed. I grabbed the knife we'd brought for cooking and held it in front of me, my hands shaking. After what felt like forever, the pressure eased. The dragging started again, moving away this time, slower, fading into the trees until it was gone. I sat frozen in the tent until the sun came up, too terrified to move. When we finally unzipped the flap, the campsite looked normal. But the ground around the tent wasn't. It was covered in marks, dozens and dozens of handprints, some deep in the dirt, some smeared across the leaves, circling our tent over and over. The prints were strange, the fingers too long, the palms narrow, like something human, but not. We didn't bother packing properly. We just shoved everything into our bags, grabbed the tent by its poles, and practically ran the mile back to the car. Neither of us spoke a word the entire drive home. Even now, years later, I still dream about that face, that pale, twisted grin, crawling closer in the dark. And sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I can hear it again. That same sound, S-H-H-H-K, drag, S-H-H-H-K, drag, circling, waiting. Story 3. The Man in the Tent. This happened to a friend of mine named Eric, and he swears it's the last time he'll ever go camping alone. He wasn't new to the outdoors. He'd done plenty of solo trips before, usually bringing just a small tent, a flashlight, and his fishing gear. For him, camping was about clearing his head, about proving he could handle the silence and isolation. But the last trip he ever took was different. He drove out to a national forest he'd never visited before, miles from the nearest town. He hiked along an overgrown trail until he reached a flat area near a stream. It was perfect, quiet, shaded, and far from anyone. The first day was uneventful. He fished, cooked over a small fire, and watched the sun sink behind the trees. As the forest grew dark, he crawled into his tent, zipped up the flap, and lay down to sleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, he woke up to a sound. Not an animal, not the wind. It was the sound of a zipper. Slow, deliberate. Sit. Eric shot upright, his heart pounding. He thought maybe he was dreaming, until he realized the sound wasn't coming from his tent. It was coming from just a few feet away. Another tent, but Eric was alone. He hadn't seen another camper all day. He sat, frozen, listening. He swore he heard fabric shifting, like someone moving around inside. He stayed awake the rest of the night, clutching the knife he kept by his sleeping bag. In the morning, he got out to look, and there it was. Another tent. He'd hadn't been there when he set up camp. It was small, faded green, sitting just 20 feet from his own. Eric circled it carefully, calling out, "Hello? K." No answer. The tent flap was closed. No sign of movement inside. He considered unzipping it, but something about it felt wrong. Instead, he kept his distance, packed up his gear, and decided to hike farther down the trail. But that night, when he pitched his tent again, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Hours later, the sound returned. Said Pete, closer this time. He grabbed his flashlight, unzipped his tent in one motion, and shined the beam outside. And his stomach dropped. The same green tent was there, sitting just a few feet away. He hadn't heard anyone follow him. He hadn't passed anyone on the trail. But somehow, the tent had followed. Panicked, he called out again, his voice cracking. "Who's out there?" No reply. Only silence. He tried to convince himself it was just another camper, someone who had coincidentally set up near him. But the chances of that happening in the middle of nowhere 2 nights in a row were slim. He didn't sleep at all that night. At dawn, he finally worked up the courage to approach the green tent again. He gripped the zipper, took a deep breath, and pulled it open. The inside was empty. No sleeping bag, no gear, no food, nothing. Just dirt. Like the tent was nothing more than a shell. Eric bolted. He didn't even pack properly. He stuffed his things into his bag, tore down his tent, and hiked the entire trail back to his car without stopping once. When he finally reached the lot, there wasn't another vehicle in sight. No sign that anyone had been out there with him. He drove off and never looked back. But sometimes, when he tries to sleep at night, he swears he still hears it. That slow, deliberate sound in the dark, Setchi, like someone opening a tent that shouldn't exist. Story 4. The knock on the camper van. This story happened to my cousin, and to this day, she refuses to ever go camping again. She and her 2 friends had rented an old camper van for a weekend trip. They wanted to save money by not staying at an actual campground, so they drove deep into the national forest, way off the paved roads, until they found a clearing to park. It was beautiful during the day. Pine trees stretched endlessly in every direction, and the clearing gave them a perfect view of the mountains in the distance. They set up chairs outside the van, cooked on a small stove, and laughed late into the evening. But when the fire burned down and they all climbed into the camper to sleep, things felt different. The woods were too quiet. No wind, no crickets, no owls, just silence. My cousin remembers lying awake, staring at the ceiling of the van when she heard it. A knock, just 3 slow knocks on the side of the camper. Tap, tap, tap. She froze. Her friends stirred, half asleep, but she whispered for them to stay quiet. At first, she thought maybe it was just a tree branch, but the knocks came again, louder, right against the thin metal of the van. Tap, tap. This time, it came from the back doors. Her friend whispered, "Who is that?" But there was no answer. The knocks stopped for a few minutes, then started up again, this time on the side window. She swore she saw a shadow pass by, but when she tried to peek, the curtain fluttered like someone had brushed it from the outside. Her heart was racing. She wanted to start the engine and drive, but the keys were hanging near the back door, just out of reach, on a hook. Whoever was outside would see if she went for them. The 3 of them huddled in silence, clutching each other, listening. Minutes stretched on like hours, and then nothing. No knocks, no footsteps, no sound at all. Eventually, exhaustion won out. They drifted into uneasy sleep. But around 3 a.m., my cousin woke up again. This time, it wasn't knocking. She heard. It was breathing. Slow, heavy breathing, just inches away on the other side of the thin wall. She could feel the vibration of it against her cheek as she lay frozen in her bunk. She whispered her friend's name, but before they could answer, the breathing stopped. What followed was much worse. The back doors of the van creaked. The handles rattled. Someone was trying to open them. The 3 girls screamed, and one of them finally lunged for the keys. She jammed them into the ignition, the old van sputtering to life, headlights blasting into the trees. The second the engine roared, the rattling stopped. They floored it out of there, bouncing down the dirt road in total panic, not daring to look back. When they finally reached the main road at sunrise, they pulled over to catch their breath. That's when they noticed something. On the side of the camper, smeared in long streaks, were handprints. Not just one or two. Dozens. Some small, some large. They were streaked all across the windows, the doors, even the roof. And when they looked closer, they realized the prints weren't made of dirt. They were oily, greasy, almost like fingerprints burned into the paint. To this day, the van still has faint marks from that night, and my cousin still wakes up sometimes in the middle of the night, certain she can hear it again. That slow, patient sound at the window. Tap, tap, tap. And those were for scary, true camping horror stories in the middle of nowhere. Camping is supposed to be peaceful, a way to escape the noise of everyday life. But when you're isolated, with no one around for miles, it doesn't take much to turn that peace into something terrifying. Was it strangers? Was it something worse? Sometimes we never get the answers. Which story scared you the most? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more true horror stories every week. Sleep well. You can.